Hello! This is the Extraordinary Rayman because my opinion is just that interesting. Today, children, we're here to talk about The Authority, Volume 2. Let me just get it. It's The Authority Volume 2, Under New Management. Now, I just did a video like a day ago about the first Authority, and if you haven't watched that, well, basically what I said is it's amazing. The only thing I had in it, an issue, is that there's really no character development. This detours slightly from it, but I'll get to that in a second. The first arc concerns the Authority battling God, in a sense. There's two lines in it that really sum it up. Swift, the winged one, is at the computer terminal to the carrier, and she's like, "My God, it's slightly bigger than the moon, and it's organic." Also, in the opening to one of the chapters, the narration says, "The carrier, it's 35 miles wide, 50 miles high, and it's traveling through the veins of God." Yeah. So basically what God in this is a alien entity that kind of crafted the universe in a sense. I don't think he's supposed to have created life, but he basically created our solar system and then left. He planned on coming back and to live here or something like that. But a meteorite smashes into Earth, sends it off on a weird rotation, puts it in the perfect situation from the sun and stuff for life to start. God returns and he's not happy. I really thought this was kind of cool because it's not like they're killing God like in the sense of Golden Compass where it's just the writer being angry. It's more of almost like Scientology. It's like this alien entity. It's a big fleshy mass of things. It's a monster and they fight it. You would think the scale that they put this on is ridiculous, but it's not that ridiculous. They travel through it in the carrier and they fight it like that, and they fight its antibodies, and they fight basically Tapeworm City that's inside the creature, which I think is really cool. Once again, there's not a whole lot of character development, and there's a couple lines that the women say that I think are completely out of character for women. I can say a guy saying that, but not a woman saying that. But it's really cool. But where the spit really hits the fan is in the second arc, which is introduction of Mark Miller and Frank Quitely as the creative team, which I think has gotta be my dream team. Mark Miller is responsible for two of my favorite comics of all time, that being Superman Red Sun and the Ultimates in general. And then Frank Quitely, I will buy a comic by Frank Quitely just because it has his art. I usually buy comics not on characters but on writers, but I'll buy his stuff just because he illustrated it. His art makes me excited. I don't know why. I look at the cover for New X-Men. Something about that just makes me happy to read this book. Anyway, that story confirmed has to do with the Authority becoming more of hero characters. Because see, when Warren Ellis wrote them, they're not good people, as I've already said. They're scary sometimes because they will do anything they need to keep the peace. But they're trying to keep humanity alive. When Mark Miller begins to write them, they're more hero-ish, basically. Especially compared to the Americans, but I'll talk about that later. But they're more hero-ish. It starts with them basically setting a country free that's being controlled by a dictator. And they're good people. Also, we actually get character from these people. They're not stellar characters, but considering they're not that well known, you have well-known characters in the Ultimates. So you kind of can get a bigger gist of who they are. But this is really, really good. I like it more in this. Not as an individual, they have characters, but more of like a grand, like I said, they're heroes in this. They're not just out to keep order. They actually want to do good, because Jenny Sparks told them, if you don't do good, I'm going to come back and I'm going to beat you up. Now, especially when you compare them to the Americans. Now, the Americans are a superhero team who are obviously supposed to be the Avengers. You have your Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, so-and-so character. But they're amazing. They're the most diabolical bunch of bastards you could ever imagine, and they're fantastic. They're so evil and hell-bent on their ways. They just want the authorities to come in and smack them up. Also, the villain in this is so ingenious and silly at the same time. He's the ultimate comic book fan, like fantasy villain, diabolical professor schemer. Um, I want to take a second to talk about two things that really impressed me in this. Uh, well, okay, no. Jack Hawksmere, the character Jack Hawksmere. He assumes responsibility after Jenny Sparks leaves, and he makes the most sense out of all the characters. He's the most demanding figure of them who's not gay. He has got to have one of the most unique superpowers I've ever seen in a comic. He can communicate with cities all over the planet, which lends to him being able to control buildings. He can travel through cement and land. He can manipulate them, talk to them, communicate with them around the planet. They talk to him so he can see almost everywhere at the same time. I think it's really creative, really an interesting superpower. Also, Frank Quietly's his carrier in this looks so cool. There's a lot of detail in Brian Hitch's carrier, but you really get the grand scope of his carrier. And something that I've also really liked about Frank Quietly's art is I don't like it in comic books when the faces are kind of like mid-expression. They'll be kind of like, or, 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 something weird that doesn't lend itself well to the whole sentence that's being said. But Frank Quietly has a nice neutral to his face, which you can see at any point in this conversation them saying. Also, like, there's always something little to see in every panel he does. A character will be, this is kind of going off, but in New X-Men, when they're about to enter Professor X's brain, Emma Frost just pulls out a flask and drinks it. Okay? Awesome. He does such a good job of blending with the writers and creating a scene, creating a story. That's the issue with widescreen comics, is you have to tell so much story while not have as many panels as the traditional comics. And whenever Frank Quietly works with someone, he does a really good job of being able to do that by able to stuff so much stuff in a panel. Now, while in a case of a movie, like George Lucas's Star Wars prequel Abominations, that's not a good thing, but this is a comic. It's not constantly bombarding you with crappy screw-ups of classic movies. I think I've ranted on this enough, but yeah, these books are fantastic. I love them. They're the epitome of grand-scale superheroes, because these are worlds that are made around superheroes, around these basically gods dictating the existence of people, fighting over people's lives. They're not, as I feel, a lot of modern comics that have been written since the 30s, or like the normal Marvel universe, where they try to take the real world and bend it a little bit to fit around superheroes existing. No, this is from the straight up superheroes have always existed, and people kind of accept that. And I really find that fascinating. And it kind of what J. Michael Straczynski does with the new Superman book, kind of. But granted, it's an origin story, so it's kind of different. I should probably do a review on that. Anyway, I highly recommend this. I have Volume 3 coming in the mail, and it's completely done by Mark Miller and Frank Quietly, and I'm really excited about that. I cannot wait. This is the Extraordinary Rayman signing off. I'll see you next time.